Hello friends, how are you doing today? My name is Mary, this is Happily Ever Esch, and today I am sharing with you my thrifted book haul. So yes, we are going to go through all the books that I don't know that much about because I haven't read them yet, but want to share with you because we like just to talk about the things we buy, and people like to watch the things we buy, and it's this like mutually beneficial relationship mostly, right? But also I don't know why we do this. This is a question for another video, but here we are. So, what was that rant? I don't know. But I did have found some really great things while thrifting. I love to thrift all the things, but especially books, because when you can get a cheap book, who doesn't like that? So, yes, without further ado, friends, let's just hop on in. Okay, shall we? Yes. I'm gonna kind of group them by thrift stores. So this first thrift stores selections over the past couple weeks have been great. It's my favorite thrift store. All of their proceeds go to different organizations that they run, so I love that. And they just have the best stuff. I don't know how they do it. I think it's because they are a huge organization in the town that I'm from, and they get tons of donations from their members. So it's awesome. So the first two are old books that I love. I was so excited to find them. The first one being this little Everyman's pocket edition of Walden, and I know it doesn't look like much, but the spine is absolutely beautiful. Also, Walden is written by Henry David Thoreau. The end pages also beautiful. This is the book like that I want to read in the forest, and I can just imagine myself taking this lovely little thing into the forest and going on like a walk and reading it. So we'll see if that ever happens. It is a little fragile, but still I love it, and I'm excited to at least have it on my shelf because I think it's like a beautiful thing in itself, but also to read this copy. And Henry David Thoreau went into the wilderness and lived in like a cave. I'm not exactly sure. He was isolated and he wrote about his experiences, although there is question of whether he was actually isolated and what does it even mean to be cut off from society, yada yada yada. Regardless, want to read this book by Mr. Thoreau. Okay, the other old vintage copy I got was, I'm so chuffed about this, this edition of Shirley by Charlotte Bronte. Isn't it just lovely? I love the green and the red. I love like the old thick pages. It's honestly a great font. Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte is one of my favorite novels. I have not read anything else that she has written, but would like to read all of her work someday. I will link a video up here from the Snow White Reader. I'm not exactly sure what her channel name is, but her and her friend do this like little series where like one is Charlotte Bronte and one is Jane Austen, and they talk, and they like the whole big joke is that like I wrote other things but Jane Eyre, but I'm like a Charlotte Bronte fan who's like only read Jane Eyre, so need to rectify that, and could totally imagine doing so with this lovely edition of Shirley. And also I have to show you this bookmark because it's just too good. Okay, so it's a Lucky Strike cigarette like bookmark advertisement. Isn't this, I mean, the Mystery League bookmark, but just like before you start to read, while you're reading, between chapters, and when you're finished, reach for a Lucky's. I mean, I don't know, I just think it's too like good and just like a piece of its time, and I will cherish it forever, even though the United Cigar Stores Company you did bad things to the American people, but I also can kind of just like love it. Okay, moving on. Shirley by Charlotte Bronte. I love it. Okay. All right, the next are two very new releases. So excited to find them at the thrift store. The first being The Overstory by Richard Powers. This is to be epic in scope and kind of like follows the life of a tree, and I think it's very like heady but also readable and beautiful. Anne Patchett, who I've decided that I love, says the best novel ever written about trees, and really just one of the best novels, period. So I will take your advice, Ann Patchett. It's a great floppy edition, and whoever read it did not get all of the way through. But the half that they did read, they annotated a lot, so I'm excited to see someone else's kind of opinions as I go through this book, and I hope that I finish this book, unlike the sad previous owner who decided that they did not want to finish it. Okay, and then the next one I was just so excited about. It still has its little $3 price sticker, and that is The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. I read The Nightingale when I was on my YouTube hiatus, and unpopular opinion, I liked it, but I didn't like love it. Yeah. So I was like, maybe Kristen Hanna's just not for me. But I have been encouraged to pick up The Great Alone. A lot of people who did this better than The Nightingale, and I mean, I'm down for trying another, because it wasn't that I disliked her writing. I don't know why I wasn't a huge fan of that book. Is a different video. But this one, it just seems very appealing to me. A veteran from the Vietnam War comes home and is kind of dealing with his demons and moves his family out into like the middle of nowhere, Alaska. And I think it's their story. And that sounds like a very unique historical fiction. Anyway, for $3, I was about trying it, so we'll see how that one goes. The next three are from my thrifting adventure in Kansas City, which I hope to post a thrifting vloggy video for that, which is, again, not typical booktube content, but something that I'm excited to share about just because I love thrifting, as you can tell from this little haul, and probably every time that I mention it in my videos, but just want to like share the fun things that you can find at the thrift store. Budget friendly, sustainability, all the good things. Also, I'm gonna like start stacking them over here on my little bench, and we'll see how high the books get. Can you see them yet? Nope. Yep, there's Walden. Okay. Alright, so the first one is one that I have read, and it's a middle grade that I truly loved, and that is The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. This is magical and heartfelt and really deep for a middle grade. It's all the things. I think it sets the bar for middle grade books so incredibly high. I absolutely loved it, would like to reread it and read it with my children, so was very happy to find a copy of that for my shelf. It was one of those things where there was a guy like standing in front of the shelf, and I was like, oh, excuse me, sir, I need that one, because I just needed it in my life, and he didn't seem like he wanted it, so it's fine. Okay, The Girl Who Drank the Moon. Okay, and then again, two relatively new releases. The first one is one that was I just couldn't help myself, and that is Bring Me Back by B.A. Paris. I read her thriller, The Breakdown, and really enjoyed it. Like, also really enjoyed it for me is like 3 stars. Like, I just have a hard time giving thrillers like high ratings, just because for me, part of the appeal of reading them is that like it's thrilling and suspenseful and like what's gonna happen, but like once I know, I'm like, good, you know, I don't know. It's just not my favorite genre, which is fine. But I still want to continue to explore the genre and see, maybe I can find a favorite thriller book. But The Breakdown was super fun, super engaging, not too scary or too gory or too much, because I'm a little bit of a chicken. So I'm hoping that this one will be good for me too. So they're also very short, like a quick couple day fun romp. Like, yes, please. So for $1, well, it was 50% off day, so probably for 50 cents, I had to take that home with me. And then last, from my Kansas City trip, is Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. I own Everything I Never Told You, and I still haven't read it. But I couldn't help myself. This has to do with adoption or some sort of custody battle. I'm very interested to see how she tackles this. I don't know if I've said, but my job has to do with foster care, and a lot of that has to do with guardianship and adoptions, and so I'm always a little wary about how people will deal with that subject, just because I have a lot of knowledge because that's the field I work in. I don't hope that doesn't sound like, I mean, obviously everyone's experience is different, but I think some of the things surrounding it, I just have a hard time reading if I don't feel like it's portrayed correctly. And so I've been a little nervous about this book, but also really interested in this book and like her discussion around that topic. So I hope that makes sense. I don't mean that like everyone I think's experiences around adoption and guardianship are all different, but I think like the proceedings, like when those things aren't represented like well, it's stressful for me. Or not stressful, but like it's hard for me to like enjoy the book then because I feel like it's not being portrayed correctly. I hope all of that makes sense. Regardless, I have no idea if this book does because I haven't read it yet, but I would like to. And so I bought it. Okay. All right, just a few more. Just a few. The next two I found on a thrifting adventure with some friends. We thrifted, went and watched Little Women a couple weeks ago. It was lovely, and I found two books because of course I did. The first being, Maeve Binchy's Tara Road. I had a beat up little mass market paperback edition, so when I saw this really pretty and floppy and more normal sized paperback, I decided that I needed it. Maeve Binchy writes women's fiction, you know, and I want to read some of it, so I got this one. What should we say instead of women's fiction? I don't know. The masses need to brainstorm and then get back to me. All right. And then this last one I got from this little thrift trip I was very excited about. It's a nonfiction that I've heard lots of great things, and that is H is for Hawk by Helen MacDonald. This, I started to listen on an audiobook a couple years ago and knew that it was going to be so rich and good, but that I would want a physical copy to mark up. This is a memoir, a personal experience with the author learning how to be like a hawk trainer. Is that how you would say it? A falconer. A falconer is the correct word. And I think it's like the hardest falcon to train. But the author is dealing with grief, the loss of her father, and it's like her relationship of like going through that grief and also like training this hawk. If that doesn't sell you on it, I don't know what will, but I've been looking for a copy of that for a while and was very excited to find a beautiful hardcover. Okay, and so do you remember the first thrift place I talked about? The rest of these books belong. So they were divided and they shouldn't have been. Okay, another new release, which I was very excited about, is Virgil Wonder by Leif Enger. He wrote Peace Like a River. He writes Midwestern fiction. This one sounds lovely, and I'm a little more interested in this one than just like, at least the like premise of this one, than I am Peace Like a River, so I might pick this one up first. Our titular character, Virgil Wonder, has a car accident and he wakes up and he doesn't remember like big chunks of his life, and I think he's just trying to put the pieces back together, and it seems to be heartfelt, like kind of cast of characters coming around him and helping him do that. Yeah, I'm very excited about it. We're on the come up here. Just a few more. Okay. This next one is again a little bit of a thriller mystery, and that's The Wolf Wants In by Laura McHugh. This seems to be dealing with the opioid crisis, which it's also set in like the Midwest, and that's obviously, the opioid crisis is a huge deal everywhere, but it's very particularly bad in parts of the Midwest, and the main character's brother has died, and I think she's trying to figure out what happened. So again, not very long. Seems like it will be a great summer read, but with a little more like substance, like to sink your teeth into, I guess, with some of like the more social issues on it. So excited about that one. Two more. Another nonfiction. This is The Short and Tragic Life of Robert Peace, a brilliant young man who left Newark for the Ivy League, by Jeff Hobbs. I don't know a lot about this, but it's been one that's been on my list for a very, very long time. So Jeff Hobbs is looking into this man's life and telling his story, but I think like a greater story, this area, where he came from, and social commentary, I'm sure. All right, don't knock over. We have like the little books on the bottom, and so, okay. And this one I was very excited to find, and that is The Final Girls by Riley Sager, another thriller. I love how I said I generally like thrillers, and then like a third of this book haul is thrillers. This is another one that I've heard really good things about. We're kind of following that final girls trope, and it seems like there's like a group of final girls that are being hunted by a killer. So yeah, there it is. There's the stack. All my books that I thrifted. Have you picked up anything good recently? I would love to know. I've had a lot of coffee, so I hope that I didn't annoy you. And if I did, you probably clicked off, so that's okay. I did want to show you one more, a book I got for judo, which I was so excited about. I was a Shel Silverstein mega fan as a child, so I was very excited to find A Light in the Attic for very cheap. It was a couple dollars, and I don't think you can beat getting a like new Shel Silverstein book for that price. Yes, that's it, friends. What have you found recently? What are you picked up that you're excited about? I would love to chat with you down in the comments below. And I will talk to you later. Bye.